It's quiet in here tonight. How many's thankful for the presence of the Lord in their life? And how many's thankful that the Lord has always made a way? Sometimes we go through impossible situations. Well, for us, it looks like impossible, but to God, it's not impossible. And I'm so thankful that we serve a God that is always faithful and always there, and He always has a way out of anything that we face. Can we lift up our hands and worship the Lord? Lord, we worship you, Jesus. Standing here, not knowing how we'll get through this test, but holding on to faith you know best. Nothing can catch you by surprise. You've got this figured out, and you're watching us now. And when it looks as if we can't win, you wrap us in your arms and step in. And everything we need you supply. You've got this in control, and now we know that you've made a way.
Has He always made a way? I can remember as a child, or not a child, but a young man, and I did a lot of dumb things. My driving record as a teenager shows that. And so did the insurance that I had to pay. But no matter what I was doing, God made a way and pulled me out. Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you tonight and honor my pastor for all that he does for this church. You may be seated. I won't have you stand because when I get ready to read, it's only a verse. But I get phone calls up at work sometimes, and I'm told we've got vehicles pulled off to the side of the road. And at a prison, that's not a good thing because you don't know what's happening. So we go out and check. Can I help you? We're just out here bird watching. When you've got a farm that size, you get a lot of birds. I'm not one that wants to go out and watch birds. There are certain times of the year that I like to watch turkeys. There are certain times of the year that I like to watch dove. But getting out and watching a warbler or, Oreos or any of this other stuff, it's not me. To those that like it, more power to you. But there's a website that the bird watchers get on. And they post about the birds, what time, date, weather, where exactly it took place, and luckily it says, do not enter the premises. Stay on the side of the road. And they document the bird that they saw. Again, not my cup of tea, but to each their own. Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run, they shall not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. I'm not going to speak on anything in depth. And please do not throw anything at me when I give you my title. But I want to preach on bird brains. Growing up, I liked watching things about wildlife. And there's a majestic bird that I used to like to read about. And the name of it just inspires intelligence. It's called the dodo. Doesn't mean it's the smartest bird around. I used to watch the cartoons with the ostrich where they put their head in the sand. Like, you can't see me. Kind of like a child when they're hiding behind a tree and the tree's about that big. But in their minds, if you can't see me, if I can't see you, you can't see me. I used to laugh at the penguins, the way they waddle and stuff. As I get older and my boundaries expand, I do more waddling myself. But not all birds are dumb. The owl is considered wise. It was a toucan that made me fall in love with cereal, Fruit Loops. And I remember as a child watching a particular bird that taught me much. It was on Sesame Street. Big bird. Helped me learn my alphabet, helped me learn how to count. So not all birds are dumb. When I used to do magic, there was birds that I trained. A lot of them that have been around for a while, they'll remember some of the birds, maybe not the names. But the first doves that I trained, to do magic with, their names was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. One day at home, I get a phone call. It's Angie. She said, "Can you come out here? There's a bird out here attacking the kids." I'm like, "What kind of bird is it?" She said, "It's a green bird." And I'm like, "What do you mean there's a green bird on Jackson Road?" So I went outside, and there's a parrot sitting high in a tree. Don't know whose it was. It had got loose or someone released it. So I spent about an hour trying to entice that bird to get close enough to where I could grab hold of him. And I finally got it to where I got it captured. And I paid for it when it bit me. But I trained that. The next VBS, we had a big boat made up here to look like a pirate ship. The parrot fit right in. That bird's name was Brunch. But there's something about birds. A lot of people are fascinated by them. But the one that people respect more than anything, it seems, is the eagle. When the nation was founded, there was about 100,000 estimated bald eagles across the country. 100,000 in the late 1700s. By 1963, there were 417 pairs of bald eagles left. They knew the bald eagle couldn't survive. They knew that their day was soon to be over with. They were put on the endangered species list, and they didn't think there was much hope. When I was a child, I was told, the bald eagles, we don't know if they're going to make it and all this other stuff. And all I knew is I could read about them, but I would probably never see one. Well, at work sometimes now, because in 2007 they were removed from the endangered list. But when stress starts building up, there's a place that I'll go to on the farm. And it's in the middle of a field, and there's a tall tree out there. Adam, would you bring up the picture? You can't see much there. We'll focus in a little bit later. But I go out there because there's a majestic bald eagle that is on the farm at work, at the prison. And in that tall tree, it sits with its eyes wide open, constantly surveying the land. And sometimes when the stress gets up, I can just go out there and watch that bird as he sits there, or sometimes as it's flying. And, it makes you think. We've talked about it before, the eagle and the crow. Someone focused in and got a picture of a crow one time riding the back of an eagle. It's a pretty picture. The eagle flies, the bird's on the back, the eagle's not paying it any mind. Because the eagle's got too many important things to take care of than worry about something that's trying to bother it. And what it does is it keeps going higher and higher and higher. An eagle can fly at 10,000 feet. The crow cannot. The crow loses oxygen. Why do we sit around and we fight our problems over and over and over again? when all we got to do is reach out to the one that will let us soar, to take us up higher? Why do we worry about the little problems? And sometimes why do we worry about the big problems? Because we're human. But all we got to realize, the only thing we can do is put it in God's hands. Let him take us up higher, but we got to be willing to go. An eagle perches in the higher parts of the cliffs or the tree. Would you zoom in on that, Adam? It's not a good picture. It's from my phone. Sister Debbie Hedges, Cassie, they would be disappointed. But as you see, that bird is in that same tree, waiting and watching. Have you ever looked at the characteristics of an eagle? Number one, the eagle has extremely good vision. It can see a rabbit from over 2 miles away when it soars. And it can pinpoint. The eyes are the size of a human. The weight of its eyeballs is heavier than its brain. But it can focus. And that brain has been developed where as the eagle comes down, the eyes are constantly changing focus to make sure that it keeps an eye on what it needs to. You've got to have vision. You've got to have a vision to know what's going on. Your greatest entrepreneurs, your greatest CEOs, they're not looking at today. They're looking at what lies ahead. And as they get closer, they focus in little by little. And they start adapting to the changes that are coming. And they know how to pinpoint. But they never lose the vision. Unless you can gain a vision, you'll never be a leader. You've got to have a vision. Abraham Lincoln once said, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." We've got to look at the responsibilities that we have now and deal with them now. We can't just keep pushing it off. There are opportunities that we have to witness to people today that tomorrow may not be. And I've been one of those that's guilty. I'll talk to them tomorrow. I'll talk to them some other time. And maybe that time don't come. I was at work and there was a young man. We would talk about church sometimes, but I always figured, some other time. This was at Steel Tech. And that time never came because I got a phone call that over by Ricketts, Newcastle, his vehicle left the road. Missed opportunities. Because I decided tomorrow, was there something that I could have said? Those are things you can't dwell on, but those are things we need to learn from. And don't repeat it. Eagles are hunters. Because of their hunting, the survival of their families rely on it. Because you see, you know as well as I do, you've seen the pictures where the birds, they chew up or they take the food in and regurgitate it to feed their babies. Eagles don't do that. They rip the meat off and feed their eaglets straight. They're giving them something that's not watered down. Pastor, don't ever give us anything watered down. Give us the truth, and I know you always will. I've seen too many religions out there. They've lost what they used to stand on. Because little by little, they start taking things in and changing this and changing that. You know, it all began when it came to Christians, it was one way. One way to be baptized, one way to follow, one way to live. And then things started changing here, changing there, little by little. And now some strong churches, they've lost the power. Because instead of taking in the meat, they relied on something left over. We can't do that. They're determined, an eagle. They're willing to risk themselves to provide for their families. There are photographs and videos of a lamb or a mountain goat on the side, and the eagle will fly down and attack them much larger than they are. And they keep on until that their prey lose their footing. Because that eagle knows, if I want the next generation to survive, I've got to provide. They learn how to put it all on the line. They risk everything they have. Eagles are loyal. They believe in, when they mate for life. Mandela said, I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers it. A lot of men have given in to their fears. But the one that survives and the one that is able to conquer faces the fear. I've never met anybody that can honestly say they don't fear anything. I have some that might say it, but I've been around them, and I've seen otherwise. When I walk into a wing and we've got things going on, there's times I'm nervous. I just choose not to show it. And I'm glad when the situation's over. Some know exactly what I'm talking about. But you cannot allow that fear to show. You go through it. You work through it. You find a way to get to the other end. Eagles are defenders. The talons of an eagle, they're razor sharp. They're long. They can catch a hold of prey. An eagle has no natural predator. Now, the osprey, that's a very large bird. It will attack the eagle. But the eagle will run away quickly. Because the osprey knows it cannot defeat the eagle. Why do we face things? Why does Satan come against us? And why, when we start praying, does he start to flee? Because Satan knows he can't defeat it. But he also knows that sometimes we forget he can't defeat us. And he'll play off of that. When the storm comes, you know, we've had some pretty good storms here lately. I'm not running outside. I'm not running around in the storm because I don't need to be there. Birds, they will start hunkering down. The eagle faces the storm. Because during those winds of the storm, he can go higher. Why is it through our trials and when God puts us through things, when he takes us through the fire, do we come out stronger? Because through adversity, the Christian grows. We have to face the storms. And as that wind catches underneath the wings, it rises up higher and higher and higher to greater heights that we never thought we'd reach if it hadn't been for the storm. Like I say, predators may try to come after the eagle, but they'll run away when the eagle remembers he's an eagle. Eagles fly high. When they fly at their highest, the thing that I like about them is they use less energy. They learn how to soar. They learn how to rely on what holds them up. They learn how to depend on what's underneath of them, pulling them up. We stand in God's hands. When we face the storms, it's amazing. God picks us up and raises us higher. And I've noticed that I've wasted a lot of energy trying to fix the problems that I'm going through. And if I just put it in his hands, how much easier it is. We all face things, like I say, 10,000 feet altitudes that an eagle can fly. Another thing eagles do is they look after their young. They are very, nurturing. By the time they are, I believe it was 12 weeks old, the eagle is full size. In that small 12 weeks, it went from being fed by daddy about 90% of the time and mama feeding 10%. And then it goes on to about halfway through. And then it's about 50-50. And then the last little bit, mama's feeding and bringing it in. They work together. As a church, we have to work together when the young ones come in, when those new people come in. When we're not careful, we can push them away. Make sure we're there for it. And I'm definitely preaching to myself when I say that. There's a story about an Indian brave who found an eagle egg. And he took that eagle egg and he put it in the nest of a prairie chicken. The prairie chicken chicks hatched and the eaglet hatched. But the eaglet was raised by the prairie chicken. He learned how to squawk. He learned how to cluck. He learned how to scurry around in the dirt to get worms and what little pieces were left. And one day the eagle looks up and he sees this beautiful, majestic creature flying through the air. It was an eagle. And the little eagle had never seen one. And he looks over to his brother, prairie chicken. What's that? It's an eagle. If they come near you, be very careful. Watch them. They fly up there, but we're meant to be this down here. That eagle grew up never realizing its potential. Never realizing that it was meant to soar. Never realizing that it had all this opportunity that was wasted because people told him, you're a prairie chicken. Sometimes, as saints, we allow things to come at us and we think we're a prairie chicken. And we're satisfied being here, groveling, picking little things up here and there, a little nugget, come to church, pastor's preaching, and I'm satisfied with the little nugget when God and pastor's trying to get us to spread our wings, to fly more, to realize our potential. Saints, God did not expect his people to be prairie chickens. He expected us to be eagles, to learn how to fly, to gain vision, to gain this and that. When I'm parked off to the side of the road and I'm watching the bald eagle, friends of mine will drive by, or people that I work for, and they'll ask me, is everything okay? Yeah, I'm fine. They don't see what I'm looking at. They don't see what my eyes are focused on. When we go through things, people wonder how we face the things we do, because they don't see what we see. They don't feel what we feel. Pastor, when I was looking at the characteristics of an eagle, and it talked about the vision, I couldn't help but think of you and the vision that you have for this church. And no matter what you face, no matter what you go through, you've not lost that vision. The only difference in the vision is you've allowed others to pick up on your vision. Sorry. You're a defender. No matter what you're facing, you are there for us. I have witnessed too many times, not only in my own family, but in families of others. When people are going through things, you're there for us. Storms, and I hope I'm not out of line. Brother, you're facing storms that I don't know how I would be able to do. But it's taken you to another level. You may not see it now, but you got a lot of people watching you. You've got kids watching you, what you face. You're flying high. Maybe not as high as you want, but we know we're in your prayers. Hunter, when things come after us in the church, you've got a man that knows how to get his knees and defend the saints of this church. We have a man who will protect us. A man who's not lost focus. A man who's not turned his back. We know that you get sick sometimes, but you got a church behind you. Because you're behind us. And I didn't know if you were going to be here, and it's kind of feel weird saying this with you here. I was in my office one day. Officer came in, had a little box. Storm had hit. And I was like, why did you bring him a box? Because usually when they bring in a box, they found a snake. They found something like that. They've got a turtle. You know, they got the little rat traps. They put it on my desk. A snake got on it. And it's trying to slither and everything else on the rat trap. But when they set it down, I saw something I was not expecting. It was a hawk that was wounded, that went through something. And they asked me, what am I supposed to do with this thing? Well, we're going to do what we can to make it survive, because that's illegal if we let it die or try to kill it. And I like going to work for 8, sometimes 16, sometimes 20 hours, but I get to go home. I don't want to stay there. Nice place to visit. So I reached out. We had a lady that worked with us. She was always catching the cats. And she would take them, get the cats taken care of so we didn't have more cats. And she would bring them back and let them out at the prison again. She was big on the animals. So we called her up and said, what do we need to do with this? Raptor Rehabilitation Center. It's where if a hawk, an eagle, a bird of prey is injured, that they can go to get their wind back, to gain their strength again, so they can soar once more. This church is a rehab center. We're all going to catch our wind again. I long to see who, just being honest, I got a long way. I mean, I'm still working on my walk with God. We all are. Okay. Pastor, you're not at the top right now. As far before you even had this, you weren't at the top. You still had room to grow. But I'm catching my wind here, and even when he's sick, I'm trying to catch up to him here. Catch your wind. The church is always there for you. Again, because you're with us. Tomorrow night, Sister Megan, what time are they meeting to pray? 7 o'clock? Again, this feels weird me saying this with you here, but I'm so glad to see you there. Church, let's help get some wind underneath our pastor. Continue to pray. It's not a moving and it's not a shouting service. It is from the heart, though. We are meant so much more than to scurry around on the ground. And we see that through the representation of the shepherd that God has placed over us. Pastor, thank you for all you do. Can we stand? I know this was short, but if we could take a few minutes, those that would, if you have something that you're longing for, if you want to be able to get a little bit closer, I wouldn't huddle around him, but he'll take all the prayers. If you'd be willing, could we come up just for a few minutes? Pray for this community. Pray for the strength of this church. Pray that we have outreach. Pray for the ones that are going to be in the heat on Saturday. And pray for Pastor. Let's come.